Did you think overcoming social anxiety would be easy? I did, but then I spent years stuck trying every trick there was before I finally became confident enough to be myself without fear. But it took forever, and I made a lot of mistakes along the way that I wish I hadn't made. So, to help you overcome social anxiety and become extremely confident, I'm going to show you the 20 lessons that I wish I knew a lot sooner, starting with lesson number 1. I used to get so extremely worried about how any social interaction would turn out that I would plan every conversation before they could happen. This would only cause my anxiety to skyrocket because when the conversation would not go the way I planned it, I would begin to feel extremely awkward. And when it derailed, it completely killed my confidence. So lesson number 1 is to stop planning conversations and let them flow naturally. It is impossible to know every single variable that will happen when you enter into a conversation. So you must learn to relax and allow the interaction to move smoothly. Lesson number 2. Piggybacking off of the previous lesson, whenever an interaction failed to meet my expectations or didn't turn out how I wanted it to, I would begin to spiral, imagining that the other person was thinking all these negative things about me, like, oh, he's so weird, or that was the worst interaction I've ever had. This would only cause me to get lost in negative, ruminating thoughts. So lesson 2 is to detach yourself from the outcome. You cannot control the outcome of a situation. You can only focus on your current actions in the moment. Lesson number 3. Since there are so many different directions a conversation could go, I used to find it extremely difficult to start talking with people. Every time the topic shifted to something I didn't know about, I became overly worried that I'd seem awkward or unintelligent. I put a lot of pressure on myself to keep the conversation alive and please the other person. But in doing so, I missed the beauty of simply letting things unfold. And lesson number 3 is to embrace the unknown in each situation and conversation. It's, again, like I said before, it's not your responsibility to know everything or please everyone during interactions. The beauty of human connection lies in its unpredictability. And that's what allows you to truly connect and make a genuine connection with others. Lesson number 4. When going into new social situations, I will get super self-conscious and worry more about how I came across than the actual interaction itself. And ironically, that made me come off as incredibly more shy, and I was more focused on myself than the other person, and it actually made it more awkward. So lesson number 4 is to focus on the other person and not yourself. Whenever we enter into social situations, it's easy to worry about how we're being perceived, but that only pulls us out of the moment and makes us hyper aware of our flaws. But shifting that same energy towards genuinely connecting with the other person changes everything. Lesson number 5. Since I would hyper fixate on myself and how I came off, or if I sounded awkward, I failed to listen to the other person and actually connect. When I finally shifted my perspective, I noticed that the other person was also thinking about themselves and how they came off just as much as I was. So lesson number 5 is that no one's thinking about you as much as you may think. Social anxiety causes us to believe that our issues are unique, but many people experience anxiety or feel self-conscious just as much as we do. Lesson number 6. I used to be a people pleaser, and I would agree to anything that people would say because I was worried that if I didn't, that they wouldn't like me. And this put me in a lot of uncomfortable situations, and I would avoid people more as a result because I was worried that if I didn't agree to the things that they wanted to do, they just wouldn't like me. So lesson number 6 is to accept that not everyone has to like you. It's not our responsibility, once again, to make someone like us or not. No matter how much we want them to, we simply can't affect the other person. We must understand that it's better to be true to ourselves than to be fake just to make the other person happy. Lesson number 7. I used to get really negative and talk bad about myself when I left social situations, saying things such as, I'm so stupid or I'm so awkward. Why would I say that? That actually shot my confidence and reinforced my social anxiety, making it worse. Lesson number 7 is to watch what you say to yourself. What you say matters because it can fuel your limiting beliefs and it affects how you show up in life. I try to be especially mindful of what I say after the words I am, because your brain cannot tell the difference between something positive or something negative. It will only attach your identity to the words that you speak. Lesson number 8. I had a period in my life where I yearned for more friends because I thought that making more friends meant that I was more likable. So I would chase people and people please as much as possible, and it led to my self-esteem being shot whenever I failed to connect. Lesson number 8 is that your self-worth is not based on popularity. You have to learn to accept yourself and not seek external validation or base your self-worth on surface level things. This puts a lot of unneeded pressure on you and robs you of your confidence. Lesson number 9. When I thought I was making progress with my social anxiety and confidence, I would constantly slip back into my old habits of being shy and not speaking up. This would only frustrate me and leave me stuck in spirals of overthinking, searching for solutions to counter my old habits. But when I eventually slowed down, it led me to lesson number 9. You will always fall back to your baseline belief. What you fundamentally believe about yourself fuels your actions, which leads to the results that reinforce your belief. You can only truly overcome your social anxiety when you learn how to rewire that internal belief. If you want to learn how to rewire your internal belief, sign up for the Confidence Capsule newsletter by clicking the top link in the description below. Lesson number 10. When I would enter into social situations, I always assumed that at some point during the conversation that I would make some sort of mistake or embarrass myself. That thought alone made me freeze up and mess up even more, which created even stronger social anxiety the next time I interacted with people. Lesson number 10 is that your perspective affects how you show up socially. If you always assume the worst will happen, you're actually training your brain to see social situations as something to fear, reinforcing your internal beliefs and keeping you stuck. Lesson number 11. I used to assume I would fail or mess up every time I entered into a social situation because of all the times I messed up in the past. I would replay my failures over and over again in my head. And over time, that fear of failure built up and it caused me to isolate myself. Lesson number 11 is that past failures don't dictate present interactions. Mistakes and failures are opportunities to grow and improve the next time you interact with people. Just because you made a mistake in the past doesn't mean you're doomed to repeat it. Lesson number 12. A common thing you may have noticed on the list is that I used to avoid social situations a whole lot. But because I avoided them, it only reinforced the belief that I wasn't capable of showing up socially, and that social situations were something to be afraid of, which slowly killed my confidence over time. And that leads us to lesson number 12. Don't avoid social situations. Avoidance reinforces the fear and convinces your brain that you aren't capable. The only way to overcome any obstacle is through action. Lesson number 13. Working up the confidence to talk to people used to feel like a heavy task for me, and I would get extremely overwhelmed. I'd try to throw myself into conversations, but that always backfired and made me even more anxious. Or I couldn't do it at all because it was just too much. So lesson number 13 is to take small actions to build your confidence. Start with a simple action, say hello, then ask a short question, then build up to longer conversations. Over time, your fear and anxiety will naturally start to fade. Lesson number 14. One of the biggest hurdles I faced when I was trying to overcome social anxiety was the fact that my thoughts would bounce all over the place and I would get overwhelmed so easily. This would frustrate me to no end and I would try to push through it, but that would only leave me drained and exhausted after any social interaction. Lesson number 14 is to practice mindfulness. The grounding technique, box breathing, and journaling are powerful ways to calm your mind and reconnect with the present moment. The overwhelm that you feel is a signal that you need to take a moment to calm your nervous system. The more you practice mindfulness, the easier it becomes to show up calmly and confidently instead of getting lost in all these anxious thoughts. Lesson number 15. I used to be extremely slow to act whenever I wanted to talk to people. My fear of how I would perform or how the conversation would go would paralyze me, causing me to miss out on many opportunities. So lesson number 15 is to learn to trust in your own abilities. Social anxiety often makes us question our ability to perform in any situation, but having faith that you are capable is the difference between the life that you want to have and the life that you believe that you're stuck in. Lesson 16. A mistake I see a lot of people make when it comes to their social anxiety is that they take their emotions at face value and they believe that how they feel about the situation is the truth about it. This often leads to people acting on impulse and assume that they made a mistake or that they're not wanted in social situations. This only creates a cycle that only boosts your anxiety and makes it significantly worse over time. So lesson number 16 is to take inventory of your emotions. When something happens to you or you experience a perceived failure, take a moment and let the emotion pass before reacting or being harsh on yourself out of impulse. Your emotions do not dictate the truth of a situation. Number 17. I used to constantly fantasize about what a life without social anxiety would be like, but I was stuck in the loop of only thinking about it. Every time an opportunity came up, I hid away instead of actually acting on it. So lesson number 17 is that social anxiety can only be dispelled through action. You cannot think your way out of a problem. Action is the only real solution. So spend less time trying to create the perfect plan and take more time actually taking small steps to face and build confidence. Lesson number 18. A huge hurdle that I had to overcome was that whenever I wanted to talk to someone, or whether it was in class or out in life, I would talk myself out of it because I truly believed something would go wrong. I would catastrophize, assuming things would go in the worst possible case scenario. And this, of course, killed my confidence and left me quietly sitting there, never taking the next step. But that was until I learned lesson number 18. Start asking what ifs. What if it turns out better than I expected? What if I can actually make a real impact on people? What if my negative thoughts are just wrong? These thoughts help break the pattern your brain gets stuck in and forces you to consider the opposite side of the situation. Sometimes we get so caught up in the habit of thinking negatively that we forget that there are positives in every situation. Lesson number 19. I was constantly surrounded by people that I believed that were better than me in so many different ways. Watching them succeed made me doubt myself and feel like I wasn't good enough. Seeing others interact and do things that I wanted to do hurt my confidence because I expected the same results they had, but I kept falling short. So lesson number 19 is to stop comparing yourself. Comparison will only steal your joy time and time again. Focus on your own progress instead, because growth isn't a race to the finish line. What matters most is staying present and working with what's right in front of you. And lesson number 20. Social anxiety used to rob me of my joy because I was constantly worried about how I came across, which only made my anxiety significantly worse, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So lesson number 20 is that anxiety is a thief of our dreams. Anxiety is your brain imagining a future danger so vividly that it affects you in the present moment. Don't let your anxiety rob you of the future you know you're meant to live. Take it day by day, one step at a time. And before you know it, you're going to look back and realize that you became the more confident version of yourself. Although all these lessons I just taught you are incredibly effective with helping overcome social anxiety, if you continue to let your thoughts take over, then none of what I said would matter. So click the video on your screen now to learn simple tricks to help you finally stop overthinking.